There are four criteria. There are four criteria which, if you wrestle through a lot of business formulas, that really try and analyze risk and mitigate risk. Okay? Four things. I wrote them down. The first is to find the threats. First idea is to find... Thank you. Is it a cent or a penny? It's a penny, okay. First step, in business risk, find the threats. Those threats could be external, those threats could be internal. Those threats are pretty much similar, but greater than the list that we talked about here. Second step in our formula is to establish the characteristics of those threats. In other words, to understand the nature and the detail, the depth, the impact, potential of each one of those threats. Third step is to assess ways to reduce that risk, to actually analyze ways and objectives to reduce what is the best strategy to reduce the risk. And the fourth stage, finally, is the reduction strategy. Now, isn't that interesting? I mean, I think I learnt this in 16 years in economics. It's not abnormal. I mean, I think if you learn things on the playground, you can kind of work this one out. Find out what's threatening you, understand it, see what your options are, and do something about it. That's basically what it says. But this is a formal, established formula to mitigate risk. What's beautiful about this is really the essence of everything spiritual, certainly in terms of Kabbalah, is what's coded into the formula. Now, what do I mean by that? What is encoded into this formula? Who is the Times crosswords out of you? Which one of you enjoys the Times crossword puzzle? What is encoded into this formula? Fear. What? Fear. How? Because if we're saying that consciousness very much impacts reality, and it sounds such a spiritual idea, consciousness changes reality. Okay, I recognize my ego impacts my decision-making. If I had a bad day in the house, I'll be impacted in my business decision-making. I recognize even that stock markets can move based on swings of confidence and fear. The stock market is a bubble of what? Of people's confidence. It is a creation of wealth without an intrinsic value to it. Because the second a person panics and the herd mentality of the market follows, then everything which was so huge becomes zero, nothing, and in fact, probably we're in debt somehow. The risk of credit defaults. What is really the risk? Okay, so there's an environmental issue. No one's saying that we can be spiritual minded and just sit at home and meditate all day. There is an activity involved in jumping in the deep end. However, if I'm jumping without understanding the code of risk, which is my fear, unquestionably, I'm not mitigating risk. Unquestionably. What really I'm scared of, in terms of any expansion of business, in terms of divesting some of my equity to a partner, in terms of the trust of a team, in terms of environment market, in terms of recruiting someone, what really am I scared of? Where is the fear? What is that fear ultimately? Fear of what? Fear of loss. Fear of loss. Or fear of what? Failure. What does it mean, fear of success? Let's understand this. This is clear as black and white to me. Fear of success means what? Why is that scary? How many of you at work either would like a greater responsibility in terms of your employment or in terms of your entrepreneurship, that you would love to expand your business. How many people would love that? Either to be given more responsibility at work or to expand. Probably most of us. So what does it mean I'm scared of responsibility? It doesn't make any sense yet. How many people wake up and beg to be failures and to lose money today? How many people would love more success? Hands up. So what is there's fear of success. What am I scared of? What?
Not getting there.
Which would be failing, or having success and losing it, which would be failure. So fear of success is a thrown concept. I've never understood it. It's not real. Has no spiritual grounding to it. The fear of failure perhaps is real, but we'll understand that in a second. But unless I'm understanding this concept, fear of loss, fear of failure, my environmental matrix as to how I put into the part of my business choice, each factor which will impact my choice, it's not real. Because if my fear of failure is driving an amazing opportunity, I won't win. Somehow either I'll lose the merit of its success, or even if I'm successful, I won't carry myself through into that success to experience the success, or I'll fail. If a person is fearful of loss, what are they? If you're scared to lose something, if you're scared of failing in something, what typically do you do? Are you an absolute lunatic, aggressive, or do you typically run away? Normally you procrastinate. If there's a fear of loss, it can create a kind of fight-flight idea, but normally a person who's scared of failing, what? Acts or doesn't act? Doesn't act. Normally, a fear of loss and a fear of failure creates inaction. Normally. Inaction. Escape. That lack of going for it creates success or failure. Failure. Right? So clearly, the fear of failure, which typically takes me out of the game, creates failure. Now, with that come a lot of excuses. Because the true excuse of failure is what? If a person fails, what might be, I mean, let's just ask you as to what some of you guys, the failure part of the room, in terms of the auction exercise. What typically did you run down the path of? What were you saying? What happens in failure normally? What kind of excuses do we give?
Loss of money.
Loss of money, okay. Why didn't I go for it?
I didn't want it anyway.
I didn't want it anyway. What else?
You blame other circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. If the market was different, I would have. You know, it's simply not about me. You know, I need to be a little bit cautious right now. That seems to be the general theme in the news. So my own caution, my own inaction is a great excuse. I can use that. I can jump onto the back of that. What else? What are excuses of inaction? Waste of time. You know, probably wouldn't have happened anyway. You know, probably wouldn't have worked. Yeah, what else?
Not enough time.
Not enough time, exactly. Might not have made it. What else?
There was no value in it.
There was no value. It wasn't really as big as I thought. It wasn't as great as I was thinking. And in fact, somehow then our consciousness will turn creation, will turn reality to a place where, yeah. And will create feedback where we validate that initial fear. Right? That excuse leads to a ton of validation, where we'll just see, so blinded, a part of reality that will make us feel better in our fear, to soothe our fears. Right? After that inaction, those excuses, what spiritually is happening what spiritually is happening is we get down to a common denominator and a true value of self. Now imagine this, right? Imagine there was another stock market crash. What does it mean, a stock market crash? What is the word that's used very often by economists who are so clever after the crash, of course? You know, they've lost billions of their own clients' money, but they're on TV saying how intelligent they are, right? So after the stock market crash, what do they call it sometimes? A correction. It's a beautiful word, this. It's a readjustment. It's a correction because there was so much extra value, and really the intrinsic quality of this is actually much less. Right? Your Louis Vuitton handbag, which I know you got for $5,000. You didn't, but I mean, you did. How much is the handbag worth, really? 6,000. Yeah, there's a demographic common value here. Okay, let me ask a guy. Yeah. You're saying because you bought one, or you've had them bought for you? Okay. How much do we think that real bag is worth? What was the bag bought for? I mean, in some sweatshop somewhere. What? $10? I don't know. Okay, but we're agreed that it's not costing the company $5,000. $50, I don't know what. I don't know. When the stock market goes through a crash, it's like the Louis Vuitton bag discounting its price from $5,000 to $50, because that's really what it's worth. Right? And isn't that a great thing? Because really, the extra faff that goes around this Louis Vuitton bag is non-intrinsic value. It's perception. It's a fact this sexy model, this marketing, this brand, this shop, this image makes you think that it's actually worth much more than that one you can get in H&M. Now, the point is this, that when fears break, actually we get back to a lower common denominator, which is more real. Now, if you're really dissecting a fear, what will you get to? Let's say give me a situation where there is a business practical situation where there is a fear of loss or fear of failure attached. Something that you've perhaps been through, or just a made-up example where there is an investment here and there is a fear of failure or loss attached to that.